We have some super exciting news about Diablo 4, new content in the full release of the game, information on some points of criticism, and a few early numbers and facts about the beta. Some of this info is hot off the press and some I've sifted through from the countless social media posts over the past 2 weeks, which were likely overlooked in the chaos of the beta. So let's dive into this video together and explore what's new in the ARPG blockbuster from Blizzard Entertainment. Diablo's community manager Adam Fletcher has just brought us the news that we can expect the next developer stream in April. The focus of the stream will be on the endgame and the systems designed to keep us engaged beyond the campaign and character level 50. This is the part that many ARPG and MMO enthusiasts consider the actual game. For many, myself included, a game only truly begins once the story is completed, or at least when the max level has been reached. So it's extremely interesting and important to know what activities the game will offer and how varied and engaging the hunt for better gear will be. Blizzard has a lot to make up for after Diablo 3's endgame, which was one of the biggest criticisms of the game. This is one of the two major topics that we haven't heard much about, so I'm really looking forward to what the development team and a special guest will have to share with us. The second big topic, which will be covered in another dev stream, is the monetization in Diablo 4. Also always a very hot topic, but especially after the Diablo Immortal fiasco. Since next month's stream will focus on the endgame, I don't expect the stream about Blizzard's monetization plans to happen before May. In addition to this, the April stream will also provide information, numbers and hard facts about the beta and the lessons learned from it. That should be very interesting as well. It seems that there is a lot of feedback for the developers to sift through. However, we already have a few early numbers from the early access beta, and I always love such statistics. During the first beta period alone, players with early access to the open beta spent nearly 21 million hours in Diablo 4. We killed 9 billion monsters and died 17.5 million times in the process. The Butcher has brought diabolical joy to many players, causing nearly 600,000 deaths with a KD ratio of over 4.0. We were only able to send the Butcher back to hell about 130,000 times. Ashava the Pestilent has an even worse record, having sent over 4 million heroes to their eternal hunting grounds while only being killed 33,000 times. I personally encountered the Butcher 5 times. I died 3 times and managed to defeat him twice, once solo and once in a team. How did your beta experience go? Did you encounter the Butcher and were you able to defeat him? I'm really curious to see how you prevailed. Feel free to let me know in the comments down below. And if you've enjoyed the video so far and would like to support me and the channel a bit, please consider giving it a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to the channel to stay updated on the latest news and activate the bell so you don't miss any videos. General Manager Rod Ferguson confirmed on Twitter that the build we played in the beta is an older version of Diablo 4 and doesn't reflect the current state of development. Although this was to be expected and is standard procedure for betas and demos, it's nice to have it officially confirmed that some issues encountered in the beta have already been addressed or resolved in the current build. For example, there was the amusing but also very annoying bug where the necromancer skeletons would follow you around in cities and social hubs. This was certainly not intended and will be fixed by the game's launch. It was quite a nuisance, especially when the skeletons started to blink and flash even after leaving town, forcing you to restart the game. However, the developers took care of this issue, so no more skeleton stalking. Another bug that caught players' attention was the ability to trade legendary items. Before the beta even began, it was communicated that loot from legendaries and above would be account bound and could not be traded or shared. The only items that could be traded were white, blue and yellow items. So now this is a confirmed bug and players should expect that trading legendaries will no longer be possible in the full release. There were also invisible walls that sometimes prevented players from leaving Kjolvashad. This is a known problem and will be addressed and resolved until launch. According to Rob Ferguson, the extreme rubber banding was likely due to server load during the beta, which was expected since this issue was particularly prevalent at launch and during peak times. The situation always improved towards the end of the beta. But the news isn't just about technical aspects. We also received some great content related information on Diablo 4 and Blizzard's plans for several crucial systems. A major critique in the beta was that players received far too many legendaries up to level 25. Rod Ferguson confirmed that the drop rate was adjusted for the beta, so players could get a better impression of the loot and give developers more data for testing. I'm pretty sure many of you feel relieved now. Personally, I must say that while legendaries didn't feel quite as special and legendary, getting the right item wasn't always easy. I spent 8 hours farming dungeons overnight in the open beta just to get a legendary with the correct legendary affix for my hunter build, which wouldn't work at all without the specific legendary trait. And the item itself wasn't even good, it had only the right affix. So even with a high drop rate of legendaries, RNG could still make you grind quite a bit. I'm curious to see how grindy the full release will be, but according to the news it will definitely be more so than in the beta. Associated Game Director Joseph Pipiora also repeatedly confirmed that the legendary affixes found in the beta are far from all that will be available in the finished game. Some critiques have been raised regarding the relatively flat and dull itemization, but it appears that we can expect significantly more build diversity through legendary affixes. Even though I didn't find the loot in the beta perfect, I was still amazed by the number of options available up to level 25. However, builds were heavily dependent on the right legendary affix, especially during the early character stages. If a specific perk was missing, the entire build was useless. I'm eager to see how this will play out in the finished game, but more and more diverse loot is always a good thing. Pipiora also confirmed that the aspects in the Codex of Power account for less than half of the legendary affixes, so there will be more than 200 legendary perks. When asked if the amount of experience points received was separately adjusted for the beta, Rob Ferguson replied, "Game balance is a journey, not a destination." So we can be sure that adjustments and fine-tuning will be made up to and likely beyond the release. We might level up faster or slower, but in my experience solo leveling to 25 took about 4 hours, which I think is fair, especially considering that you'll probably need to bring more than 5 characters to endgame level 50 if you want to play various builds. There's also some official information available about the different classes in the game. During the beta, the general consensus was that the Barbarian and the Druid classes felt much too weak compared to the others, while my impressions was that they were indeed weaker and slightly more challenging during the leveling phase. I found them to be incredibly powerful in the beta endgame. So all 5 classes had very potent builds at level 25, and neither the Druid nor the Barbarian were in any way inferior to the other 3 classes. It's also important to note that these 2 classes didn't have specializations in the beta because the mission to unlock them was located outside the playable zone and therefore couldn't be accessed. When asked how the Druid would fare after level 25, Rod Ferguson replied, "It's fun, but you have to go to Skosglen to perform the Animal Spirits Attunement and unlock the specialization." Ferguson also had something to say about the Necromancer. Is there anything better than Corpse Explosion? No, the answer is no. Although Ferguson is a huge Necro fan, this statement seems to hint at a slight nerf. The Corpse Explosion ability was indeed a blast to use, but it was also significantly overpowered and extremely potent, and I wouldn't be surprised if it will be slightly nerfed. Another highly controversial topic is still the high cost of resetting skill points in the endgame. Depending on how much time players have, opinions on whether skill points should be freely reset vary greatly. Currently, resetting skill points becomes progressively more expensive as the character level increases. In the beta, resetting all skill points at level 25 cost a mere 3000 gold. However, in the endgame at levels 80 to 90, the devs confirmed it's going to be so expensive that it would be more time efficient to create a new character rather than farming the resources for resetting.
There's going to be a point in time where you go like, oh, I would like to be a different barbarian, but it's too expensive to undo everything I've done. It's actually better for me to roll another barbarian and start a new one and go fresh.
A recent tweet raised a question about whether the current state of resetting costs remain the same or if the plans have changed for the game's release. Rod Ferguson suggested that it's not prohibitively expensive and they've made it easier by being able to refund a single skill point or the entire tree at once. But I'm really curious to see how this or if this might change until launch. However, we'll probably receive more information about it in the upcoming dev stream in April. Another user inquired whether the number of simultaneous players per instance would be limited to 12. For the open world bosses, the maximum player limit is indeed 12, while other areas of the open world have lower limits and towns and social hubs have higher limits. Diablo 4 will feature dynamically adjusted zones where you'll encounter varying numbers of players. We also have 2 technical tidbits to share. Diablo 4 will support ultra-wide monitors with a 21:9 aspect ratio. However, super ultra-wide monitors will not be supported, and users will have to deal with black bars on the sides. This decision is intentional by the developers, possibly to avoid potential technical issues or to prevent players with wide screens from gaining an unfair advantage, such as being able to teleport much further with the sorceress. Regarding mouse and keyboard support on consoles, Diablo 4 won't support peripherals that the consoles don't natively support. But that wraps up the Diablo 4 news and initial information following the beta. As soon as there are more exciting updates, you'll be the first to hear about them right here on my channel. I'd appreciate it if you could give this video a thumbs up, and if you enjoyed this video, you'll likely enjoy my last video displayed right here on the screen. So feel free to check it out next. Have an awesome day, and I'll catch you in the next one.